Well, thank you guys for joining us today. This is our final day of the 2021 Student CPT Leadership Conference. We appreciate you logging on and joining us all 3 days. I see some familiar names. Again, I'm just going to ask you to show your faces. We are so excited for this presentation. You are in for a treat. Alfonso Alexander is the president of the NASPA Center for the Public Trust and the Chief Ethics and Diversity Officer for NASPA. And we are, like I said, in for a treat. He is going to be discussing strengths-based leadership with you guys today. I know most of you on the call have already completed the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. And I hope that you learned a lot about yourself by taking that assessment and figuring out your top 5 strengths. So Alfonso is going to dive a little bit deeper into that today. So without further ado, Alfonso Alexander.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ashley. Hope everybody is doing well. I am excited to be able to share with you today. As Ashley mentioned, I'm going to share with you information regarding strengths and information that has been developed and pulled by the Gallup organization. Can you guys see right now my screen and see the correct image on there? Should just say the words Gallup. Excellent. I have to give credit to them and where credit is due. Gallup is the owner of the Strengths program. The Clifton Strengths Finders is really owned and managed through Gallup. Gallup is an organization that you probably have heard their name before, but just really didn't pay very much attention to it. They are mostly known by consumers and the public as this company that does all these polls. So you may hear something that say the Gallup poll says, or particularly around hot topics, they do polling all across the world to get a sense for what the community and your everyday consumers like us feel about a particular topic. But what they really do is more behind the scenes. So they collect all that data, they gather that information with the purpose of making sure that they can do research and identify trends as it relates to different things in our society. So one of the things that they did is they partnered with Dr. Clifton many years ago and helped develop the Clifton Strengths Finders. And it is a tool that is used commonly now all over in many business settings and other settings to help people understand and identify their strengths and who they really are. So thank you guys for being here today. We'll have some fun. We'll be interactive as a part of this discussion. And I want to give you guys a chance to experience what we would do if we were there live to the best of the ability that we can as we go through this. And the whole focus today in this hour that we have together is to give you an opportunity to learn how to lead using your strengths, and therefore the title of this presentation. But we'll get into quite a few things as it relates to this topic. So first thing I want to do is get a chance to see who all is involved today. And I want you to introduce yourselves. Those of you guys that are students, I'll have you introduce yourselves. And I'm actually going to go in the order that you exist on my screen. What you see there are the things that I will ask you to share with me. And we've got a small enough number on the call today that I'll ask each student to do that. If I don't ask, then it's because I know that you're not a student. And so we'll keep moving there. I will tell you that I have one high school guest with me. But everyone else is a college student. So as I call on your name, if you would just come off mute and share information that you see on the screen about yourself. So let me start with, in order of my screen, Alyssa is the first person on my screen. So Alyssa, would you introduce yourself to the rest of us?
My name is Alyssa Bavacqua. I go to Tennessee Tech University, which is in Cookeville, Tennessee. I'm actually entering the MBA program there this year. Eventually, I would like to be a college professor, so I have a lot more schooling ahead of me. something unique about me. I have a pet rabbit. I mean, I'm pretty normal, but I have a pet rabbit that sleeps in my bedroom. So, and probably the most common word people use to describe about me, especially at work, is self-determined and like self-motivated.
Excellent, Alyssa, and I love where you are in undergrad. I spent 4 years over there myself, so thank you. Welcome. Next, I see Delaney.
Hi, everyone. My name's Delaney Gust. I go to the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. I'm going into my senior year. I'm getting my bachelor's in accounting with a minor in management. So I hope to do something with accounting. I'm not totally sure which route I want to go yet. I don't know if this is necessarily unique, but I really love cooking. And last night I got like a knockoff Blackstone. If you guys know what that is, I got like a griddle. So I made breakfast for dinner last night. I was very excited about that. And then one word some people use to describe me, especially in SCPT, actually is creative, because I make all the flyers and that kind of stuff for like meeting announcements.
Thank you, Delaney, and welcome. You made me hungry talking about your uniqueness. I skipped breakfast this morning, so I'm looking forward to lunch. Next, I have another Alyssa.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Blomberg. I go to Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction. I'm a senior, and I'm not exactly sure what I want to do for my career, but probably HR related. Something unique about me is I play the guitar. Not super good at it, but I'm learning. And a word people use to describe me is motivated.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Grand Junction is one of my favorite places to visit. It's hard to get there, but once I get there, I love it. I think it's beautiful out there. So welcome. Next, I see Bailey.
All right, hey y'all. My name is Bailey Jones. I just got married and I can't figure out how to change my last name on here. Thank you. I'm about to be a senior at the University of Southern Mississippi, and I'm double majoring in accounting and finance. And I think I really want to go into tax with the hopes of eventually becoming a tax partner at a firm. Something unique. Well, I'm very addicted to that phone game Candy Crush, and just recently surpassed level 6,000. So love that game. And a word people use to describe me, probably silly.
Gotcha. I would say also strategic, because to get up to 6,000 with Candy Crush, you have to be. I can recall there was a period in my life not very long ago, just a couple of years ago, where Candy Crush was what I did every night before going to bed. That was how I relaxed to go to sleep.
Amen.
And I got up to about 2,800, and then I had to get a new phone, and you know what happened there. It didn't.
Oh no.
And I just never had the heart to start back over. So Bailey, I admire you to be up at level 6,000 plus.
Well, thank you. 2,800 is pretty impressive as well.
And if you heard Ryan's presentation yesterday, you also know why he had a problem with the new phone, because he's still on Android and not an iPhone.
Right.
Yeah, if I have time at the end, I'll explain to you guys that all of you all have Android. You have a Samsung product if you carry an iPhone. Samsung makes almost every part of that phone, but that's a different conversation. Peyton, I see you next. Welcome, Bailey. Peyton, you're on mute.
Hello, my name is Peyton Nash. I am an up-and-coming freshman at Vanderbilt University, and my career goal is to eventually become a neurosurgeon. Something unique about me, I play violin, and a word people use to describe me is reliable.
Right. Welcome, Peyton, and welcome to the world of college and university life. And then my guest for us today is Mr. Brandon Nash. Brandon, would you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Brandon Nash. I'm a sophomore in high school, going to be a junior, and I want to be a sports agent when I get older. And then something unique about me, I'm in the band. I play baritone or slash euphonium. And then something, a characteristic to describe me, I'd probably say is competitive. I like to, even though sometimes it's not really necessary, like I like to make competitions within myself and compete with other people, even though it's not really actual competition. I just like to be the best overall, if that makes sense.
All right. Welcome, Brandon. Thank you. And then finally, I see Stephanie.
Hi, I'm from Oklahoma State University. I'm a junior. I'm majoring in accounting and minoring in MIS. Interested in doing internal control or internal audit, but I'm open to other careers. Something unique about me, way back when I was in high school, I was able to sing at Carnegie Hall in New York City with my high school choir. And a word that people would use to describe me would be versatile. I am good at a lot of different things. So depending on the task that I'm working on, I'm able to get it done pretty quickly.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and pleasure to meet you. Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you all for sharing. I know you probably thought you'd get on here and be listening for an hour, but there are going to be a few different times that I'll ask you to share some things. So be prepared. And then secondly, if you have questions or comments that you want to get out there, you can also use the chat feature and plug them in over there, and we'll get to them there as well. So I'm going to jump right into our presentation. You see on your screen now quite a few people, faces and faces that you probably recognize. They're music artists that are pretty well known, I think, in pop culture today. And the reason that you see that screen is there's an example of flow. Flow is a word that we'll use a couple of times during this presentation, but one of the things that is clear is that when you are operating in your strengths, there is a flow to it. It's a natural capability that comes out of you being able to operate fully into your flow. There's some people that can do certain things and do them very well and be very comfortable with them. And then others can be in the same industry, same profession, doing the same kinds of things, but have a totally different style. So as I mentioned, you see rap artists there, you see singers there, you see people who are entertainers, but all of them have their own unique style and their own unique flow, but it's natural for them. They can do these things because they are operating in their strengths. And so that's what we're going to get to today as a part of this whole presentation is we're going to understand and deal with our strengths. We're going to do it again in an interactive way. So here's the next opportunity that you have to interact. And I want you to, everybody, look at the screen and see what you see when I ask these questions. So you'll see on the slide, it says, stand if you always. We're not going to stand, but I do want you to raise your hand if you fall into this particular category. So raise your hand if you write down a list of things to do and stick to it. Let's see. So we've got a few people that have some hands raised there. It looks like more than half. Cedric is not committed, but he seems like he may do that. Maybe he makes a list but doesn't stick to it. Next, raise your hand if you need to pick someone to race while going somewhere. You may be going one place, they're going somewhere else, but just because you like to compete, you might pick someone to race. I hate it when people pass me on the interstate. So I have to raise my hand there because it becomes like a challenge. I'm trying to figure out why somebody is going faster than me. That's odd. They shouldn't be doing that. Raise your hand if you get accused of asking too many questions. Raise your hand if that. All right, we've got a couple. It depends on who it is. If I'm at home, my wife says I ask too many questions. Any other place, they don't necessarily say that. But again, that is a potential characteristic. If you are skeptical, unless given some proof, raise your hand. That's definitely me. I see several accounting majors and finance majors raising their hand. That's important. Raise your hand if you have a color-coded or otherwise organized closet. I'm going to raise my hand there. That's not 100% of the time for me, but about 70% of the time, I'm that way in my closet. Not necessarily in other places in my life, but definitely in my closet. What about if you order off the dollar menu? Raise your hand if you order off the dollar menu. All right. We got some people who are very mindful of how they expend their funds. Now, what's interesting is we just did a quick exercise there to get a sense to see a couple things. One is that we all have different patterns and ways of doing things. And in some cases, those patterns and ways intersect with each other. But in no case, I didn't see any situation where there was only one person that raised their hand, or any situation where there was a person that never raised their hand. We all interact and we all have some level of connectivity, even though we have a level of diversity in terms of how we think and how we do things. So that's important to note. As it relates to strengths, though, we also have some diversity. There's diversity of thought, diversity of skill and talent, and we'll talk a lot more about that a little bit later. But there are some assumptions based on what we've learned culturally that we all carry with us, and we'll talk about those here for just a moment. One of those big ones is that all behaviors can be learned. And we hear that because there are some motivational, inspirational things that people share with us. It may be our parents, it may be other people that we respect. We hear things growing up like, if you try hard enough, you can do it. I remember when I was learning how to ride a bike, which is a skill, but I was learning how to ride this bike, and I remember, try harder, you can do it. Try harder, you can do it. That worked for riding a bike, but that doesn't necessarily work for everything. But that's something that stayed in my mindset. If you want it badly enough, you can make it happen. Well, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I used to want to be an R&B singer, but I cannot carry a tune even if you put it in a bucket. So that's not going to work for me. And I finally have had to acknowledge that. If you dream it, you can achieve it. You know, there's some parts of that that's true. First, you have to have a vision before you can realize something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will achieve it just because you can think it up. There are other components to that, but those are common inspirational words that we've heard and maybe continue to hear, but they can lead to assumptions that can be misleading. The other thing is that there is a right formula to do something. So the best person in a role can get there and others can get there the exact same way. That's not true. There are multiple ways to get to something. Fixing weaknesses leads to success. That is definitely not true. We can fix, or we can attempt to fix every weakness that we have, and we'll never get there because new word, new thought, new mindset for us is weaknesses are not something that we can fix. We can manage them, but we can't fix them. Now I'm going to give you some proof. Everybody pull out a sheet of paper. Now I know that might be hard because we are in a paperless environment most of the time in our lives, but what I'd like for you to do is pull out a sheet of paper right now if you can. All right, and I am going to put you on the clock. And what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to write 3 times. When I say go, I'd like for you to write 3 times the statement that you see on the screen. I use my strengths every day. Wait till I say go though. I want everybody to write it 3 times. And then once you have written it, just raise your hand quickly so I know that it's done. So on your mark, get set, and go. right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay. So we had everybody raise their hand, and it was at 29 seconds. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you used your dominant hand? Raise your hand if you use your dominant hand with that. All right, should be everybody. It's natural. Everybody use their dominant hand. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the stopwatch. And when I say go, this time, I'd like for you to use your opposite hand. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to write the same 3 statements, but with your opposite hand, waiting until I say go. On your mark, get set, go. All right, everybody stop for a second. Now, here's where I need some brave people here. All right. I would love for someone to show us what you did the first time. Your work ranged from, the first person that I saw raise their hand being finished was at 20 seconds. The last person I saw that, as I mentioned, was at 30. I gave you 32 seconds this time. And I would love for you to put up in front of the screen, in front of your camera, your 2 pieces of work. Let's see. All right. Bailey, I see you did all 3 the first time, and then the second time you got to 1 1/4. Alyssa, you got all 3 and 1 1/2. Looks like Peyton got 1 1/2. Brandon 1 1/2. Delaney, I can only see what you did at first. Yeah, you did something the second time. It is really, it looks about like mine. So here's the deal. You guys can learn to do better with your opposite hand. But the reality is your strength is in your dominant hand. And that's what this whole concept is about. And we use a silly example of your dominant hand in terms of writing, but those assumptions carry over into other areas of your life. Here's the reality. Some behaviors can be learned, like riding a bike. You actually can learn to write better with your opposite hand, but it still won't be as good as where you are from a strength standpoint. So as you can see on the screen, many behaviors are nearly impossible to learn, and there's a difference between talents, skills, and knowledge, and we'll get to that. Second right assumption is the best in a role deliver the same outcomes, but they use different behaviors. You will notice great doctors, great attorneys, great accountants, great entrepreneurs have stories that they tell about how they became successful, and those stories almost never are the same. And you can look at that in any person that you would consider to be great in any particular area. Here's the big one. Fixing weaknesses prevent failure. Now, earlier, we had a bad assumption that basically said fixing weaknesses led to success. That's not true. But what is true is fixing your weaknesses can help prevent you from failing. Building strengths is what helps you develop excellence. So here's the reality in a nutshell. We can get pretty good. We can actually be average or maybe even slightly above average if we fix our strengths. Fix our weaknesses. But if we want to go from good to great, we want to be excellent, we have to develop our strengths. And that's what this is all about. So for example, there are some people that have a natural talent and being able to identify certain things, they can look at it. And so I bet you there's probably one of you that recognized before I moved the screen that there is a typo in the title there. It says Talnet instead of talent. See that? There's somebody that had a natural talent to be able to identify those things. Others of us, because that's not something that we've developed or it's not a natural talent, we just looked at it and assumed that it said talent. Talents are naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, or behavior that can be productively applied. So a good example of talent is this person has a talent to think in an organized manner. This person has a talent to easily influence others, has ability to see patterns in data, consistently has a positive outlook on life, has the ability to push hard and work long hours. Talents are something that just naturally one individual maybe can do better than others, or naturally somebody can do something and it's easy for them. Clues for if something is a talent for you. You have a yearning to do more of it. Activities that you're naturally drawn to tend to line up with things that you have talent in an area of. So for example, if you naturally are drawn to doing things where you engage with other people, it may be that you have a talent for communicating. Rapid learning. These are things that you pick up quickly where others may not pick up as quickly as you do, and you can't understand why everybody can't see it. Well, it's because you have a natural talent in that area that everybody else may not have. When you look at flow, activities that seem to just automatically happen for you, you know the next steps that should be taken. That means you have a talent in that area. Glimpses of excellence that even surprise you. There may be some times where you go and do some things and you're caught up in it and it was just so natural for you. And then later you realize, wait a minute, how did I even do that? I've never done this before. This is the first time for me, but I was able to just naturally do it. Those are clues that those are natural God-given talents for you. Satisfaction. You enjoy it so much that it's fun for you. Immediately after finishing, you're like, wow, when can I go do this again? It's almost like that sensation when you go to a carnival or a theme park and you ride this great ride that you stood in line for 2 hours to get to. And as soon as you finish it, you want to go ride it again. But you have that level of satisfaction if it's something that you're doing that's in alignment with your talent. You get positive feedback from it, even though you may have thought it was just okay. But others gave you positive feedback because that's a natural talent that you have. Now, when you take talent and add some skill to it and some knowledge, that's where you get a pronounced strength. So if talent is natural ability, naturally recurring thoughts, feelings, or behavior, and then you add some skill to that, meaning you have developed some fundamentals around a specific task related to that, then now you've got talent and skill in that area. And now if you overlay that with some knowledge, when you add talent, skill, and knowledge, then that becomes a pronounced strength. And we're defining a strength as the ability to consistently provide near perfect performance in a specific task. That's a demonstrated strength. And that's what we're trying to help you to understand, that if you focus on taking your strength level where it may be high today, and you add more to it by increasing your knowledge, developing your skills around it, and making sure that you interweave your talent in it, then that pronounced skill or pronounced strength that you develop will benefit you more than spending a lot of time focusing on trying to fix your weaknesses. Yes, we want to manage our weaknesses, but we go from good to great by building on our strengths. So let's look at that in a pictorial way. So knowledge gives us facts. We understand. We know the rules. So if we're thinking about the game of basketball, we know and understand the rules. We know and understand the plays that we practice. We have knowledge of who our teammates are, and then we overlay that knowledge with the development of some skills. So we had to learn how to dribble the ball. We start out bouncing, and then all of a sudden we learn how to dribble. Now we get into rebounding, and rebounding, we learn the basics of blocking out. We learn and understand how we position ourselves and when to jump, the timing, so that we can rebound. And then we learn how to shoot, and we develop the skills of shooting. And so when we put the knowledge and the skills together, we have a level of proficiency there. But then we continue to work those two together and add talent to it, then things get better. So if we know we have a talent in an area, we develop knowledge, we work on our skills, then all of a sudden we position ourselves to be a more well-rounded individual. And now we start to work toward a strength. And see, if we have all of those together, then we get to the strength point where we have this consistent performance that's near perfect, whether it's shooting 3-pointers or whether it's getting assists or positioning to be the best rebounder so you can start fast breaks. Any of those things that are prevalent and helpful in basketball, as an example, are things that we can do as a part of our strengths, and our pronounced strengths help us to excel toward greatness. So let me pause now and just ask you guys to comment on your thoughts or ask any questions related to the differences in talents, skills, knowledge, and strengths. So let's have a little dialogue. What are your thoughts on it or questions? Bailey, you seem to be thinking deeply there. So let me ask you a question. Just based on what we've seen, you're recently married, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you recognized any particular talents that you have, things that come naturally for you that your husband doesn't have, or vice versa?
He is very patient, and I think I'm very like organized, and I don't know, like we balance each other out.
Yeah. So that's great, because that's a great example. So part of what as leaders we want to do is we want to build teams where people have strengths in areas that are weaknesses for us. So for example, in our team, I am always looking to find the next new thing we can do, and having a new vision and trying to work on a new strategy for our organization. And with that, I'm casting vision. I'm looking for new and innovative things to do. Well, when it comes down to the details that have to be worked out for that vision to become a reality, I'm bored with that. Not really very good at that. So that's why I appreciate people like Ashley, because Ashley will stay on me to make sure that the details get handled, whether it's me handling them or she handling them or Cedric handling them. She'll make sure that it stays on the radar and stays on point. And Cedric also helps to be what I would consider the filter to say, hey, Alfonso, you're out there too far. And then that gives me the step back to say, all right, am I really going out there too far, or do I need to sell this for them? Because as we get into our strengths, you guys will see one of my strengths is futuristic. And one of the characteristics of that means that I can see things before other people can. I can put the pieces together. And so sometimes I do have to pull back, but other times I may be in a situation where I say, you know what? I just need to sell them on this concept. So I'm glad you brought up how you balance each other, because that's so important in a team environment. So here's a little test, all right? I need somebody to answer this as we go along. I've got about 6 or 7 of these questions. I want to make sure that we all understand what this is, all right? And so here's how I want to do this. So if the answer is talent, you hold up a number 1. If it's skill, number 2. Knowledge is 3. Strength is 4. So 1 through 4, as they're listed on there, that's what we're going to do. So the first one, a person has a natural desire to serve customers. Is that a talent, skill, knowledge, or strength? 1, 2, 3, or 4? All right. I see quite a few ones. Let's see. You are correct. All right. Putting together a brochure using design software. Talent, skill, knowledge, or strength? I see 2s, mostly 2s. You're right again. However, you see the dotted line. It does take a little bit of knowledge on there. So skill, somebody has learned how to design some things using software, Canva, whatever it is, but also it takes a little bit of knowledge. But once you get it, you can do it pretty easily. So the next one, understanding what certain numbers mean on a customer's bill. Talent, skill, knowledge, or strength? I see some 3s and a 4 or 2 here. Let's see. Knowledge, that's right. Understanding the way it lays out is something that we can learn and grow in through knowledge. Next one, an instinctive ability to understand the customer's needs. 1, 2, 3, or 4? All right, I see a couple of 1s, I see a couple of 4s. All right, let's see what it is. Boom, it's number 1, it's talent. Now let me tell you how you can, what gives it away is that word instinctive. Instinctive is really meaning that it's natural. So that's what makes it a talent. All right, last one, winning over an upset customer by calmly working with that person to solve his or her problem. Which one is that? All right, I see a 2, I see a couple 4s. I see a few more. All right, all right. I see an undecided. All right, let's see what it is. It is a strength, number 4. Now here's why. To be able to effectively do that, because every customer is different, you have to have some talent, also the skill to understand it, and the knowledge to be able to help solve that problem. So these all build upon each other, and it's a recipe. So think about this, that natural instinctive talent added or multiplied by some time spent developing the skills and gaining the knowledge. So we got that talent, we develop skills and gain some knowledge, multiply those together, and that's where we get the strengths. And again, this strength is this ability to consistently provide near perfect performance in a role. That makes sense to everybody? All right, good, good. So now let's talk about what you experienced when you dealt with your talents. I'm sorry, when you did your assessment. So first, did everybody do the Strength Finders assessment? Great, great. I'll tell you, focus in on those top 5 themes, and that's a great start for you to understand how you can start to utilize strengths that you have that can help better you as you progress throughout your career. So this is a listing of all the major categories. And if any of those are in your top 5, then you got a chance to see and understand what they mean with the description that was there. What I would also encourage you to do is to think about how you can utilize those strengths to help you finish your academic career and to start your professional career. Use this, that access code and account that you set up when you completed the assessment is yours forever. It will not ever expire. All you have to do is remember the email address and the account code that you used, and you'll be, or in the password that you use, and you'll be able to get into it. There are also some things that you can even add where you can get additional tools and additional pieces of information. But right now, I want you to think about your top 5 themes that came up. And what I'd like for you to do is pick one of the themes that you feel like really describes you very well. And then also one example of how you have used that theme now that you realize that that's one that you have. And so I'm going to get 3 people. I need 3 volunteers to share with me the answer to those 2 bullets that you see on your screen. 3 volunteers. All right, Delaney, let's start with you.
Okay, so my 5th one was responsibility, and it says that you take psychological ownership of what they say that they will do. And going back to the beginning of the presentation, when you said if you write things down on a list, you stick to them, and I 100% do. That's kind of how I manage my homework. I'll write out every single day and what I need to do that day, and I always get it done because I just feel like I need to do it, and it's like my responsibility to get it done.
Excellent, excellent. So your day isn't complete until you've gotten through that list.
Yeah, same with work. I'll write out everything I need to do and I get it done.
Excellent, excellent. See, you're the type of person that I need and like to have working with me, because I'll start out with the list, 3 out of 5 days a week. But by the time the day is finished, my list is longer than it was when I started, because I've checked off a few things, but I've added 10 more things. So thank you for that. Let me get our next volunteer. All right, Alyssa.
So my number 1 strength was futuristic, which wasn't really surprising at all. And for me, like I work in retail, and that's where I utilize this the most, because like I'm the one that's in charge of our floor changing. And so like I'm able to look at a floor plan and think like 6 steps ahead of, to do this needs to happen, to do this needs to happen. And so like for my brain, that's really easy to think about. But for my store manager, she's not futuristic. So I have to figure out how to explain it in a way that she understands what I'm talking about.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, you've got that situation where you see it before other people. And so I can see that. I can relate. Let me get one more volunteer. Okay, let me see who I can volunteer. Okay, Bailey, go ahead. Uh-oh, she volunteered and then froze on my end.
Uh-oh, can y'all hear me?
We can now. Okay.
Okay, so my number 1 theme is being a learner, and in the little description it says that you thrive in a dynamic work environment where you're asked to take on short project assignments and learn like as much as possible and then move on. And I've been interning as a tax intern at a firm, and that's a lot of what I do, is doing these individual returns where they're all different. So I never thought about it, but that really does apply to what I do and want to do.
Get this quick thing done and learn the next one and move on. I love it. I love it. Great examples. Thank you guys for engaging. Let me give the volunteers a round of applause. Now, what this learning about this and knowing your strength gives you the ability to basically start to build your own personal brand. You can use your strengths to identify with and build your brand. And so it's magnificent to know that, hey, I'm a person that's a relator. So I don't have a lot of friends. I have a huge number of acquaintances, but very few close friends. That's because I'm a relator. And it's important to me to have those relationships. So if I know that about myself, then when I engage people, I can pretty quickly decide if somebody is going to be a very close friend or somebody's going to be an acquaintance that I know. And I can build my brand and how I engage people around that, because I've learned that about me as a strength. And it doesn't matter if somebody's strength is greater in one particular area than another. I mean, think about it. If you were looking to hire a magnificent CEO, successful billionaire to run your business, which one of these 2 guys would you hire? Would you hire the founder of Microsoft, or would you hire the founder of Berkshire Hathaway, the 2 richest men in the United States? well, it's two of the richest men in the United States. We'd have to have Amazon CEO on here now, but the point is neither one of them is right or wrong or better or worse, because both of them have different strengths that they would bring. Who would you hire? Would you hire Taylor Swift or Rihanna if you're looking for a great musical performance? Neither one is better, they're just different, and so it depends on your audience. Actors, which one would you take? Will Smith, Denzel Washington. Maybe it depends on the role. Neither one is better. It just depends on what strength you're looking for. And it doesn't matter if somebody has a strength in an area that's different than what you expect. I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to try to think and guess who this person is. In basketball, I had height, but that's about it. I can't dunk, and I'm 6'4". That's pretty pathetic. Baseball, I don't know if it's like moving different ways to get the ball, sliding, whatever, but it's not me. I don't have very much hand-eye coordination either. That's a quote from a famous athlete. And I would think if they're 6'4", this person would be able to do some good things in a basketball court, but maybe not. But what he was able to do, even though basketball and baseball weren't his thing, he was able to figure out what strengths he did have, and actually has won more gold medals than anybody in the history of the Olympics. So that's Michael Phelps. He realized that he did have some talent. He put skill, he put knowledge on top of that, and developed strengths as a swimmer. We can do that same kinds of things if we get a grasp on what ours are. I want to shift, because we're running close on time. I want to shift and share some things with you, because it's easy to fall into a trap where we think that our strengths may be greater than others. And so there's a concept called balconies and basements. And what we don't want to do is find ourselves in a situation where we become judgmental because of this newfound knowledge that we have. Because all strengths have some benefits to them, and all strengths have some challenges that come along with them. And they're all based on perception. So again, I emphasize, if you know and understand what some of your strengths are, then make sure that you take on an opportunity when you're in leadership to identify people that have strengths that are opposite from you. You do want some commonality, because that helps build a strong culture. But if everybody is the same, then you find yourself in a situation where you can only go so far. So let's think about this. So a balcony is for the talent of responsibility, or the common theme of responsibility. So I know someone has this. Who had this one? Was it Bailey or Delaney? As one of your as one of yours. I think it was Delaney. So you look at that as, hey, I'm committed, I'm independent, I'm accountable, and I can be trusted. Other people may think somebody that's high in responsibility is a micromanager, or they may guilt trip others, or they may be obsessive about meeting a deadline or something like that. And so make sure that you understand the negative perceptions that people may have of you based on some of your strengths. And it's all in the information that you got from the assessment, but then also make sure that you don't judge others in that same way. People that have self-assurance, for them is, hey, I've got a strong inner confidence. I'm confident, I'm grounded, unwavering. Well, other people may feel like you're arrogant or stubborn, self-righteous or overconfident. Make sure that there's a balance there. Activators, you can see there are different things there that are both positive and negative. The key is for us not to judge other people, but then also make sure that we're conscious of how we come across to other people, so that they don't put us in those judgmental categories. A person that's strong as an activator is attending a meeting. How might that talent be manifested? Well, let's think back 2 slides here. That talent can be manifested if we make sure that we take advantage of the energy that this person brings, and that we know they're going to be a self-starter. We know that they're going to be a mover and shaker. So one of the things we could do if somebody is an activator is we can say, going into that meeting, hey, I want you to make sure that we keep things lively. If it has a tendency to get boring, then I need you to be the one to keep people pumped up. If you're leading an organization like a student CPT chapter or something, maybe people that have strengths as activators, maybe they're your social committee chair people, because now you're taking advantage of that strength that they have. Does that make sense, guys? Wonderful, wonderful. So this is an exercise that I encourage you to do kind of on your own. Think of one of your top 5 themes, your signature themes, and identify one of them that you love, okay? Identify another one that it is a theme of yours, but you know this within yourself drives you crazy. And then also listen and think for one of your themes that you wish you were better at. And then what I'd like for you to do is that particular one, focus on growing in that area as you continue to think about what you want to do for the rest of the summer. Identify one of your top 5 and think about how you can grow in that particular area. So if one of your top 5 is harmony, but you feel like there's a lot of growth area for you in that one, then let's focus on that, okay? And use that over the summer as part of what you want to do. Remember, we need a balance of all of these. That company that somebody mentioned earlier that makes that second tier quality telephone, they had 2 Steve founders of that company. One of them you see right here, Steve Wozniak. He was a computer guru, a technical genius. That's who he is. But then they also had this other Steve, who's a marketing expert and a risk taker. So when you take a look at those and put their strengths together, so the strengths that we just saw here, when you add those 2 together, you get Apple. And Apple a couple years ago was the #1 Forbes most admired company because that brand is so valued here in the United States. So important for you to take an opportunity to do that. What I'd like for you to do
Hold on 1 second, guys. Let's see if he comes back to us. Hold on.
While we're waiting, I'm just curious, do you guys mind typing your top 5 themes in the chat box? I'm just curious who scored high and which areas.
And I'd love to also hear if any of these were a surprise to you.
hello.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened. I think I lost internet connection. So I apologize for that. I don't know where I lost you guys.
You were giving us a charge, what you wanted them to do next.
Excellent. So I was on my second to the last slide. If that makes you feel any better, everybody. So let me go back to that one. I finished and said, anybody have any questions? And nobody was there. Here's what I challenge you to do. Take a look at your top 5 and based on your top 5, identify some things that you're going to work on over the summer so that you can be better at utilizing your strengths.
Uh-oh. We must have lost him again, guys. Oh no.
Oh my goodness. Am I gone again?
No, we hear you now. We hear you now.
Every time you try to give us a charge, it goes out. So I don't, maybe it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to give them work.
I'm going to try it one more time. Work on your top 5 themes. That's it in a nutshell. Spend time focusing on that this summer. What you see on the screen, I hope now, are my top 5. I'm going to join this with you. I am going to work on being better in these areas. And the biggest one that I'm going to work on, so Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I'm going to work on being a better relator. I'm done. I know we have 1 minute left. If anybody has a question that we can answer in 1 minute and my internet still works, I'm happy to do so.
Sounds good. Anyone have any final questions for Alfonso? Awesome. Well, if you do later, I'll be sure to give you guys his email address. Thank you so much, Alfonso, for speaking with the students today. I know that all of you got a kick out of this presentation, as I did. So if you are planning to join us for the student CPT session following this and the officer training, please go ahead and switch links, and I will meet you there in just a couple of minutes. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.